Welcome to tonight's meeting of MSAD75 Board of Directors. Tonight is Thursday, October 16th, and we will call this meeting to order and begin the meeting here with a roll call. If you are so inclined, Heidi.
I was distracted. It's my fault.
Okay, yes. Hi, good evening. So in attendance, William Beatty,
Present.
Andy Began,
Present.
Holly Kavna, looks like she's absent, Jessica Damon. Present. Tony Konkals.
Present.
Gregory Greenleaf,
Present.
Hudson Hayward,
Present.
Mary Hobson. Haley Kulis.
Here.
Ryan Larson,
Here.
Jim Moulton,
Here.
Kim Pacelli,
Here.
Amy Spelke,
Here.
Frank Wright.
Present.
We have our two student reps, Ashby and Will. Yes, thank you.
Right. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next up, we have adjustments to the agenda. There were two items that you may have noticed in here that were modified. Item 5.4 was moved into the consent agenda. And item 13.4 was tabled. I'd accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's unanimous? Yes. Next up, we have public comment. I do not see any public here to comment this evening. Andy, if you can confirm that with the roll there, would be fantastic. Thank you, sir. All right. And we are moving on to agenda item 5, which is our consent agenda. We entertain a motion.
So move.
Seconded.
All right, it's moved and seconded. Any discussion here? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting? Opposed? And that was unanimous. Thank you. Recognitions and acknowledgements. We don't have anything specifically in the agenda for that this evening. I don't know if there's anything anybody wanted to add.
I have it in my superintendent's report.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Board announcements and correspondence. We do not have any specifically there either this evening, so we are going to keep moving and get right into the reports and presentations. Our first report this evening is going to be a report to hear from the student representatives to the board. On time this time. That's appropriate.
All right. Thank you. So I want to talk today about the cell phone policy at school, at the high school. So I've noticed, and I've been told by a number of my peers that Yonder Pouch usage throughout these first couple of months has dwindled. And that's particularly true among upperclassmen. But I do still believe that we are developing an academic and social environment less dependent on phones. So that's because even if Yonder pouches aren't being used by all in the intended way, I do think that they are having the intended effect. And that is because the expectation is very clear. If you don't have your phone in your Yonder pouch and you're found with your phone on your body, then you are sent to the office and will receive a detention. And teachers, for their part, are universally follow that expectation, and students, for their part, are following accordingly. So I do believe that it is still a net positive for academic and social success. And I'll turn it over to Ashby. Yes.
You say they're not using it, meaning they're
not even bringing their phone to school, or their
Yeah.
phones are just in their pocket and not in their pouches?
Some upperclassmen that drive themselves to school do leave their phones in their cars, which is allowed. But many say that they do, but still have their phone on their person, or say and leave the phone in their bag. Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, I can attest to that. So there were 2 or 3 things that I was asked to talk about. One, I mean, not much of this is really applies to this group, but it should be called to attention. One is that there's a period of time where in the morning this year, if we were sitting in our cars before school, Officer Bell would come and kick us out of our cars. We don't really know why. The explanation that I was given was that it was to stop kids from vaping in their cars. But if those students will want to do something like that, then they'll just find a way. But it was kind of taxing on us kids that have to bring siblings into school earlier, seniors. But I think that that's being changed now, where there's more leniency on upperclassmen sitting in the parking lot before school. The morning AST period is really hard. Every teacher and student that I've spoken to hates it. I mean, it's impossible to get to school in time to do quiz corrections and test corrections. It's impossible to know if you're called for an AST period, and most teachers are seeing that students are just not showing up. A lot of my friends and people I've asked on the Student Senate said that their grades are starting to fail because, and slip, because it's not as easy to access your teachers and get that help that kind of Mount Ararat promises you'll be able to get. A lot of students have a harder time getting to school early, especially with buses that come in late, like this morning where a lot of buses were showing up after 8 in the morning. So that's been a pretty big failure this year. And then the student senators have created a new subcommittee over summer homework because there's a feeling from the students that the load this year was pretty exponential, a lot bigger than it has been in the past. Some good news is that, to Will's point, there's a hugely less or a smaller demographic of students using their phones in class. I think because of the new zero tolerance policy, there's a lot less incentive to be on those devices. So that's been really successful. Whether or not people are using the Yonder pouches or leaving them in their cars or lying and keeping them in their backpacks, the fact is that they're still not being used in class. So regardless, I think that was a success. So that's my report.
Thank you both for those updates, much appreciated. And, oh yeah, Jim.
Go ahead. So is there a general sense of the student population that the purpose of the cell phone policy is specifically around the use of the phone during class time?
Yeah, so what I've heard from most people is that they wish that instead of implementing Yonder pouches, we had just gone to a 100% zero tolerance policy. But I also understand that that's hard for teachers to reinforce all the time. So I think students just think it means no more in classes. Passing period, your phone has to be away. Lunch, your phone has to be away. And, I was a pretty big critic at first, but to be honest, I'm seeing students talk to each other that haven't spoken before, and kind of cliques of students being dispersed. And I do think it's been positive. They're not being used, but it's working regardless.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, thank you both. Next up, we are going to hear a report from Amy Hall on special education and inclusive education. I don't know if you wanted to say anything here to get us started, Heidi?
Amy, our special education director, has been doing a lot of work across the district and training with administrators and teaching staff on inclusive education. And she's done phenomenal in the works of Katie Novak. She's had the opportunity to visit classrooms and see what inclusivity means in practice. And she's going to be here tonight to talk about what she is seeing and what the district is moving towards regarding special education.
You're good.
Okay. Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay, all right, good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to share the exciting work that's happening across the state and the district in the area of inclusive education and universal design for learning. The work is rooted in the belief that all aspects of diversity are natural and valued parts of the community, and that all students are recognized as general education students first, and have the right to belong in the general education classroom, school, and community. This evening, I'm excited to share the work that's already happening in our schools regarding inclusive practices, what research shows regarding the benefits of inclusion, and the connection to our strategic plan. Our strategic plan, as you know, sets forth goals aimed at providing an exceptional educational environment for every student. It reflects our collective aspirations for academic excellence, social and emotional well-being, and the development of responsible, engaged citizens ready to thrive in an ever-evolving world. Our vision is to nurture a community of learners with curious minds and kind hearts, equipped with excellent education and empowered to thrive in a diverse and ever-changing world. Our mission is to teach and inspire all students to reach their full potential through meaningful education that ignites curiosity, creativity, and critical thinking. Our ambitious yet attainable goals focus on improving opportunities and outcomes for all students and providing welcoming and safe school environments that support the whole child. At the national, state, and district level, leaders are reimagining our instructional practice and classroom environments to proactively plan for student variability. Inclusion and inclusive practices are a hot topic right now because of a growing recognition of the diverse needs of modern classrooms. It addresses the reality that students vary widely in how they learn, and a one-size-fits-all approach is no longer effective. Sorry, I was supposed to change slides. Spoke about the strategic plan. Okay. The Maine Department of Education has developed an inclusive education framework, giving districts resources and support to change systems that have historically led to students with disabilities receiving their education outside of the general education classroom. The traditional model of special education involves removing students with disabilities from the general education classroom for a portion of the school day to receive specialized, individualized, or small group instruction from a special education teacher in a separate setting. In an inclusive model, we look to proactively plan for student variability and embed services within the general education classroom as much as possible. In an inclusive model, all students benefit from the rich and rigorous learning and community that the general education curriculum and classroom have to offer. This morning, I had the opportunity to spend an hour in a 5th grade classroom at Williams Cone School. All students were present in the classroom, including students with IEPs. All students had the opportunity to work on individual goals within the general education classroom. The teacher leveraged audiobooks, buddy work, and small group instruction to meet the diverse needs of the classroom. Intervention teachers came and went from the classroom, meeting student needs without the students having to go anywhere. It was energizing to see all students benefit from the rigorous learning environment while also being offered the flexibility and support to succeed. So I want to next share a little bit with you about what the research says about inclusive practices. Research consistently shows that students with disabilities in an inclusive classroom perform better academically than those in segregated settings. They have higher test scores, better reading and math skills, and higher graduation rates. The data suggests that being exposed to a challenging curriculum and high expectations in the general education environment is academically beneficial. Inclusive classrooms are associated with significant social and emotional benefits for students with and without disabilities.
Inclusive schools see less bullying and a more supportive school culture. Students without disabilities develop a greater appreciation and acceptance of individual differences, as well as improved social skills, tolerance, and empathy. Students with disabilities are more likely to develop meaningful friendships and have stronger social networks in an inclusive setting. The data is overwhelmingly positive for students without disabilities as well. A wide range of studies show that being in an inclusive classroom either has a positive or neutral impact on their academic performance. In fact, some research suggests students without disabilities benefit from the differentiated and flexible instruction that are a hallmark of inclusive practices and UDL-based classrooms. So the data overwhelmingly demonstrates that inclusion is a win-win. It leads to better academic and social outcomes for all students, preparing them not just for standardized tests, but for a diverse and complex world. Research shows that when schools focus on implementing inclusive practices, the data shows significant increase in state testing scores for our students with IEPs, our students of color, and also a positive impact on absenteeism. So there are a few terms that you'll likely hear more often as we work towards designing curriculum and classrooms with all students in mind. Inclusion. Inclusion is the belief that all students have a fundamental right to belong and be educated alongside their peers in the general education classroom, recognizing all students as general education students first. It's about ensuring presence and community. Given the analogy of a dinner party, this is the step of ensuring that everyone has a seat at the table. Inclusive practices are the actions and mindsets needed to make inclusion successful. The systematic approach to removing barriers and intentionally using flexible strategies to ensure all students have equitable access to the same rigorous grade level curriculum. It focuses on the idea that what is necessary for some can be beneficial for all. In the analogy of a dinner party, this is ensuring that dietary needs are met and everyone can enjoy the meal. Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, is the proactive framework for implementing inclusive practices. It's a research-based design process used by educators to anticipate learner variability from the start and provide multiple flexible options for engagement, representation, and action and expression, so every student can reach the same firm learning goal. In the analogy of a dinner party, this is the proactive planning, this is the proactive planning. Instead of making 30 individual meals, you set out a buffet of options, various proteins, sides, and ingredients, so that every guest can choose what works for them and build their own complete plate. With your support over the last number of years, we've added resources at the elementary level, which has given us the opportunity to educate more students with complex needs in their community schools. As you know, we're piloting new literacy curriculums, and I'm pleased to share that these Tier 1 K-8 curriculums are designed based on the principles of UDL. Teachers are working hard to learn a new curriculum as well as rethink our intervention model, with the goal of including students in the general education classroom as much as possible. At the middle school, teachers spent last year digging into the research behind UDL. General and special educators are working together to plan units based on the principles of UDL. MAMS has reorganized their intervention model to offer more co-taught classes, where it's co-taught with a special education teacher and a general education teacher at every level, and give more students access to the general education curriculum. The high school team has expanded its co-taught classes, offering more access for students with special needs in the general classroom. MTA also has a vibrant unified basketball team and is looking to expand extracurricular opportunities for all. MSAD75 administrators, special educators, and general educators attended the first ever inclusion conference put on by the Department of Education last April. In addition, last week we sent an administrative team as well as 2 school teams to the Inclusion Education Leadership Symposium at Thomas College, where we worked on plans to make steps towards the framework that I shared that you probably couldn't read at the beginning. So we are fortunate to have the research, the strategic plan, and the passionate educators to make the vision a reality across our district, and I look forward to the opportunity to ensuring that every one of our students has the opportunity to belong and the support to achieve their full potential. I think I forgot to go through other slides. Oh yeah, I already shared some things that are happening in our schools. Yes, so any questions, comments, thoughts?
It's just interesting to me because I graduated from graduate school in 1986, and our big push was for inclusion. And we were doing that pretty well. And we started with the least restrictive environment, which is always the major tenet. So now it sounds like it's universal design for learning that might be replacing the LRE. I don't know, LRE is the law, obviously.
Right, so LRE so IDEA is the federal law that guides the work that we do in special education and guides the free and appropriate education in the least restrictive setting. So UDL is really the how we do it, how we start to move the needle on including students more in the general education setting. So UDL is really the practice to help us meet the law and be more in compliance with the law.
So, and it is interesting to me that I did watch right when they were coming out with these new special education laws in the 80s. We were really all about mainstreaming. And I mean, I was a teacher of kids with multiple and severe handicaps, especially. And so we were, kids with multiple and severe handicaps were in regular classrooms. We were doing that. We were out in the community getting jobs. I mean, it was a big.
And I don't want to give the impression that we have been totally segregated. Like this, it's not like we, I think what we can do is we can do better. We can find more opportunities for students to participate more in the general education curriculum. There's lots of great things happening in terms of differentiation for students, and there have been ever since I've been in this district. But what the new curriculums offer us is the opportunity to think more flexibly, to keep those firm grade level goals, but to think more flexibly about how students get there, and to think more flexibly about how we assess whether they have attained the knowledge towards the goal.
Yeah. Probably I hear what you're saying. I think probably No Child Left Behind came in the middle of all this, and that's when we started doing pullout. We were doing much more of the itinerant classrooms because of that, I believe. And so now I feel like this model is something that we were working for back in the 80s. And I mean, it was, I liked the model back then, and I subscribed to it because that's actually what I went to school on. So I'm glad to see we're getting, it really appears to me as if we're getting back to it more than because we've sort of left some pieces behind. And of course, you've gained knowledge over the years, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me. There are pitfalls along the way, there always are, but getting kids into regular classrooms has always been, to me, a goal. It's the least restrictive environment. So to get them into the regular classroom is where they're going to learn best. I've always been part of that. So I mean, I don't know why it went off the rails so much that we have to call it a new thing, because I don't think it is, right? But still, I'm pleased that this is a focus, because it should be. It should absolutely be. So glad to hear that for sure.
I think it's brilliant, and I also wonder what you think the challenges will be.
Well, I think the teachers would say, and I have spoken at 2 elementary schools so far, at the middle school and the high school. The challenges at this point are our schedules. So students are still going to need intervention, but ideally what we want to happen is for them to get the full tier 1 instruction and then have their intervention in addition to the core. That's really how you catch kids up, rather than pulling them out of core instruction where it's really hard to catch up. And we have barriers with our scheduling, the way that our schedules exist currently, to providing students with the interventions that they need and not having them miss core instruction. So that's one thing. Another barrier is having time for general education teachers and special ed teachers to consult and having that time to plan together. So I would, in our current framework, those are two major barriers that we're up against right now. The framework that's offered and that we are benefiting from lots of professional development on at the state level tackles those barriers and offers us different ways to think about scheduling and organizing our interventionists in a way that provides time for consultation as well as intervention in addition to the core. So I'd say those are two big issues, but we also have some resources to help us problem solve around those issues, but you know, it will take us a bit of time to reorganize. So what they suggest is that you, and they've actually done this at the middle school already, you have an intervention, a building level intervention time or a grade level intervention time where it's all hands on deck for intervention. So you have intervention times scheduled in that are in addition to the core, rather than if a student has a literacy need in 5th grade, they do their literacy at a certain time and they get pulled out during that certain time to meet the need. We have to schedule intervention times into our master schedule.
I just wanted to say how much I appreciate hearing this because it's been really, rewarding watching us move more kids into their home schools over the last couple of years and seeing how that has enabled us to sort of evolve this and sort of see this vision is really, really great. So it makes me feel good about the work that we've been doing, and it makes me feel really good about the work that's to come. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's really exciting, and already we are seeing, I know Amanda's shared a bunch of, I've heard a lot of examples from a lot of people about our students with IEPs in classrooms really benefiting from the rich conversation and text that in the past they might not have been. And it's motivating and engaging for them. And so I'm pretty jazzed about it. And it's exciting that the state is also like, it's all sort of like happening at the same time. There's a national movement and a state movement, and we're ready, I think, right now to make changes in at the district level as well. So there's a lot of support and energy around the work. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, pardon me for 1 second here while I'm getting signed back in. One of the few downfalls of onboard. Thank you very much. Oh.
So thank you. And thank you, Amy. I'm always so proud of you and your team. You guys are doing excellent work. So thank you again, just to recognize that. So a few weeks ago, John Hawley from the middle school runs a old antique, old-fashioned car show, and oftentimes he asked me to bring my Volkswagen Bug. I couldn't bring it that day because I had to drive home late at night and I have a really late meeting. It's hard to see with those lights on the back road. So, but next year I'm going to try to do it again. And so there was a group there called the Maine Obsolete Auto League, or otherwise known as MOLES. And it was quite fun to get out of the car and go see them. But a group of folks just sitting there, and they had all kinds of old-fashioned cars and hot rods, and they go around to different communities. So I wanted to say thank you to them. I also wanted to say thank you to the LL Bean Boot that came. I don't remember what the lady's name is. Our first responders brought fire trucks and police cars, and all the other folks at Mount Arrett Middle School and across the district who participated in the annual auto show at Mount Arrett Middle School. So next year, watch for that, because if you have a cool car that you want to bring in, Amy Hall has a, what year Volkswagen bus? A 1981 Volkswagen bus, and she's going to bring that in. So now you're on the hook for it, Amy. So it's,
Bug in a bus.
yeah, exactly. We might head to California, I'm not sure. So anyways, just look for that for next year. And this is why I really wanted to highlight this is because it really is about the whole community, and things like this and activities like this, bringing these to our schools and the folks coming in. That's really important for mentoring and just really making those connections. So I really applaud John Hawley and his students and the Sheepscot who did that, and everybody who participated. So thank you for that. Okay, so that's that. Any questions? Okay, I'll keep going. So Evan is not here tonight, so he charged me with the task of talking about the Q1 financial report. And you should have access to that in Onboard, and it's out there and available for folks. And what he gave me some talking points, so I didn't mess anything up, but we are currently only 12% expended. And if you look at the money that's encumbered and the balance remaining, it shows we are over budget, but not to worry, because this would be accurate if we were 100% staffed, and currently we are not 100% staffed. We have over $1 million in salary that's available in open positions. That's something that we'll look at through the budgeting process and see if, again, what positions are needed. And to be conservative and not face any surprises, open positions are also encumbered. So that money is saved and locked in, so that money does not get touched. And Evan does believe that we are not expected to overspend that line at this time. We have a course reimbursement that you'll see in a few weeks that will come, because we have that line that is under budgeted. We're going to be coming and making a transfer, because that's an expenditure that needs to be in there. And projections suggest that we will be comparable to last year's expenditures, about $124,500. Salaries and additional overtime. They are, for this line, at 51% of total budget. And they're largely, that really happens because of summer employees trainings. And while this warrants continued monitoring, it really does not appear to be a concern at this time. Liability insurance, although this line reflects 50% expended midway through the first quarter, this variant is due because we have our October 1 bills that are due, and that's why it looks that way. And so when we adjust this for timing, spending remains on budget. And leases, technology leases are also paid annually in July as a one-time payment. As such, this line is expected to remain within budget through the end of the fiscal year. So this really reflects our stable financial position overall. However, specific lines, namely salaries, additional overtime, and course reimbursement, we are going to continue to monitor those very closely. So that's it. We don't want to have any surprises at the end of the year. We don't actually want to have any surprises at the middle of the year. So we will focus on that as well. Okay? Any questions that I can't answer?
Where's Evan? That's my question.
Evan is in Portugal.
Because he got married.
He got married. He's on his honeymoon. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that out loud, but that's where he is. Okay, I am here to you also have this year's student enrollment report for October 1, and I just received this update late this afternoon. So you don't have, I didn't total it for you and put it into a nice chart as I normally do, because I didn't get a chance to do that. But I get some good news, is we are up 4 students from last year. That deserves, yeah, which is why. And our pre-Ks really did help with that. And let me tell you why. So Harpswell, you don't know this, we're at 2303 total as compared to last year. We were at -4, 2299. Hopefully that's correct. I did my math right. Yes, okay, everybody good with that. So in Harpswell alone, last year we were at 132 students, and this year we're at 155. 14 of those students are pre-K students. That is huge. So I'm really excited about that. The other area of schools that we went up was at Woodside. Again, guess why? Pre-K. We're up 16 students there. We were at 310 last year, or 310 this year, and 294 last year. I didn't actually add that, but I think that is the plus 16, but I'm not sure. We're down in Williams Cone School by a little bit, 10 students here, 10 students there, but overall, because we brought in pre-K, we are up 4 students overall in the district and continuing to look at programs for next year and how we can increase enrollment. That's where we're at. I think that's my report.
Thank you very much. Were there any questions on any of that before we move on? All right. Next up is the board chairs report. I actually don't have much to report other than just a couple of quick reminders that the MSMA Fall Conference is next week, Thursday and Friday. If you would like to attend and haven't signed up, please let us know. And the delegate assembly is this Saturday. So if there's any feedback you would like to get to Hudson or I prior to that, please do so. And that is all I have.
I think we've got an open registration spot for the board chair workshop next Wednesday. Ryan and I will be going, and we have a third spot available if anyone is interested in sharing down the line.
Yes,
I think it's 2 to 4:30.
they have really good cookies. Anyone? Yes, thank you, Frank, for that. And this is particularly to anybody who may be listening or watching. Next Monday at, I believe, 6 o'clock, we have it's the master plan, community forum for a facilities master plan, in which we've been working with Harriman, identifying kind of our future needs of the district for facilities-wise, what our current and future enrollments look like, and where things are headed, and then balancing that with the state of our current facilities, and to understand what we're going to need in the future and dealing with getting there. It is a big challenge that we have ahead of us. We are not unique in the state. The Portland Press Herald put out a story a couple weeks ago about the challenges across the state with very old buildings and decreasing enrollments and the challenges that that is creating, and we find ourselves in a similar situation. So we really want to hear from the community, their thoughts, concerns, priorities, and make sure that those are incorporated into this process. So if you are available Monday at 6, we will be here in the forum, and we would love to see you come join us. Thank you for that reminder, Frank. All right, so now we will roll right into committee reports. First, we have the Safety Committee.
So is this, I think this is about the presentation of the public presentation? Is that what this meeting is? Not the one we had this week? Okay, because it says 10/1. I thought it was in the past because the date says October 1, and so I thought it was the one when parents came, but I can do this week's. The safety team met. Most importantly, Garver was there, so it was a great meeting, just as soon as he walked in the door. We had a lot of good communication about what's going on in schools. This is my second year in the committee. I don't know what it was like before, but I think it's a really great working committee. There's lots of back and forth, and this is what we did. This is what it feels almost like a workshop every time. So I'm really proud of the work the committee's doing. Practical nuts and bolts things like what are we going to put in our go bags? Who has keys to what? Where are they? But also bigger planning things like training kids on the Sandy Hook Promise and various drills they do in school. We talked a bit about the fact that voting happens in schools, and for this year, we don't, it's a PD day, but it's going to come up every year. And there's a tension because the safety committee would definitely say it's less safe to have voting in schools. But we understand that the public need for using public spaces in schools is, I mean, they're the biggest space in the towns and it makes sense to use them, but there's always going to be that tension about what to do. So the calendar committee will have to consider that every year. And, oh, and well, you could talk about the grants because you applied for them.
Yeah, so back this fall, we applied for a $650,000 grant. We have not received any information of whether or not we're going to receive that. It's through the Department of Justice, but it would work on our access, key access, our photography, our camera system throughout every single school and really cover the needs that we have across the district. So that's a hope. And it also has in there some money for safety equipment across the district as well. And then I was contacted more recently by the Cumberland County FEMA group. And next week on Wednesday, we will meet with them down in Harpswell because there's another grant available. And what that grant requires is us to go out and do a safety assessment. And it does actually really geared towards the schools that have voting in it to make them much more safe. And so I don't know what will come of that yet, but I'm really excited that they actually reached out. And then our good friend, Phil Davis, who works for Saginaw, which covers the rest of our towns, we are also going to do the same thing in Saginaw and do a joint effort. So my fingers are crossed for that and hope that we will be able to secure some of those grants, which would really make a big difference in our ability to monitor what happens around our schools, especially during high popular events. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that.
Any questions? Yeah.
Actually, I appreciated the safety meeting, especially for folks listening at home. That's a huge reason I'm on the board, is I'm very interested in school safety. So I appreciate Heidi's efforts to that end. Thank you. And I also want to really encourage the public to participate in those meetings, because the hearsay that I get, the feedback from families is there's some substance there. They want to be heard, but then there's no participation at meetings. So I just want to put a plug in for any kind of public participation.
Talk about the training that we had, the public.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I was confusing myself, Amy, on that. So Amy, and I think you were there, Jessica, for the community safety night that we had. And we had a presentation, and each year, and probably a couple of times a year, we're going to do this now, where we invite the public in to talk about all of our procedures and how we manage what we train and the resources that we use. And so we had several parents there. The questions were amazing, and they learned a lot, and they couldn't believe the things that we've put into place. And Darren Sharp and Ryan Keith are both in charge of the safety committee, which then they help to build out this community forum. So when you see that again, we really want you to come so that we can share this information with you and understand what, our lockdown procedures are, what, why we do evacuations. And we have a big, trainings coming up in reunification, where kids will end up in different schools, and what our process is going to be, because we've changed that a little bit. And I will be sending out sometime at the end of this month, another update on that, just so that everybody hears it from me again. But it should have come already from your schools on the procedures if we ever have to reunify. Let's hope we don't. But just in case, there are procedures where you do have to bring an ID and show us who you are before we will release children to you. So it's a really good thing. We've made a lot of progress over the years on safety, and I'm proud of the team. I just sat there in complete amazement from the time we started doing all this, and my heart was filled with the work that has been happening.
A friend of mine attended that public meeting as a parent, and she contacted me afterwards saying she was really impressed with the work the district has done and the way you guys are presented. So bravo.
All right, thank you very much. Quickly, I just want to echo your request for participation in the committees, not just the safety committee. It's a great way for you to share your voice if you're listening, and sometimes the larger board meeting can be a little bit intimidating. Our committees are doing a ton of tremendous work these last couple of years, and if you're more comfortable coming there to share your thoughts, please do so. So thank you for that, Jessica. Next up, we have finance.
Relatively quickly, we had a really good meeting. We had 3 primary agenda items. One was to sort of codify our budget goals. So there's a new budget statement in our agenda tonight to approve that the Finance Committee workshop together that we feel pretty good about. We discussed the structure of the public budget forum that we are having at the beginning of November, on November 10th. We talked about sort of the structure, what kind of presentation materials we want to sort of have, and how we hope that will go. And so I will say again, to echo Ryan, echoing Jessica, public participation, people, please come to that on November 10th. It's a great opportunity to throw out your ideas as well as to ask questions at the beginning of the process so that can all get integrated into what we do. So that's great. So Evan has some marching orders for that, for documentation that we want to have for the presentation, which should be good. And then we talked about the website that budget's on. Basically, it's on the business office page. It can be a little hard to find what do we want to be on it, sort of those combos. So Heidi has already overseen the implementation of, there's a new budget button on the homepage that takes you right there, so it's much easier to find, which is great. And the fiscal 27 schedule has been posted. We discussed creating a Q&A document, so as we get questions from forums, from meetings, from emails, we'll post those questions and their answers there, and that document will get longer as time goes on. And we'll also include all of our links to all of our updated document info from every meeting as it goes. So that page will sort of build out reverse chronologically as the year goes on, is the idea. So the Q&A document is not live yet. Again, our business manager is out on a well-deserved holiday. But when he's back, we'll get the Q&A document with our initial questions filled out and posted, and that will grow from there. So that was our meeting.
Any questions, comments? Hudson, don't go anywhere. You were up again with policy.
Policy. We had a great meeting yesterday. Can't believe it was only yesterday. Feels like a lifetime ago already. We had a really good conversation about KF and KFR. Our current hot button topic of the community use of school facilities. The committee felt that we found a good model to reframe our KFR policy about how we will approach different categories of entities and organizations. We did not discuss specific rates or anything like that. That wasn't sort of the intent. We sort of had sort of a larger, higher level conversation. So I think we're in a good place at our next meeting to look at a draft policy that we would actually be able to sort of start working on. If anyone noticed, we had a 70-page agenda for that meeting because there were just a lot of exhibits, and we didn't look at every page. We sort of a lot of homework to do to sort of look at that. So I think we had a very good and productive meeting. Chris Hoffman and Sean Johansson were both there to help weigh in as part of those conversations. So that was really good. And so there's more work to come on getting that cleaned up and in place, but I think we all sort of were able to sort of recognize what we're trying to do and identify some of the ways we want to achieve that. So it's really good. Our other policies, we had a good conversation about DJ, which you guys might recall you asked the committee to look at again. So that'll come to us for our next meeting. I'll discuss it more then. And then we talked about some references from the athletics ad hoc committee, which was great. We had some really good and thorough conversations about that, which I think was really good. And so we have some questions for the athletics committee about some of their intent. So we want to see what they say before we finalize our recommendations to the board. And on KHC, we started conversations, and we're not sure we need to do any updates, but had a good conversation about how that policy works. So it was good.
All right, anything? Nope. All right, thank you very much. Next, we have school belonging meeting. Heidi, are you taking that, or?
So it was small group this week, but I feel like it's a good place for us to really explore some of the issues that come up for people in the school in terms of belonging. And I also think that we had a good article to read to help us understand how people are, across the nation, actually addressing some of the issues that come up for the different climates that is in some schools that have come up in terms of the racism and the bullying that comes up and how different communities are handling it, and looking at some models of ways to, to proactively address some of those things that are happening in schools around the country, and then to look at ways to structure a sort of a policy, not a policy necessarily, but a way that we as a school community can build within our structure a thing to sort of prevent what we see as bullying behavior and going forward. There are some hard issues that come up, and we do have this policy, I think this group there for that reason, and looking at ways to mitigate some of the things that come up in the community, I think is helpful, and I think we had some good discussion, so.
Yeah. Is it okay for me to say just a little bit? Okay. So thank you, Mary. Excellent report on that. And one of the big things is that the model that we're using is from Dr. William Preblu, who is a professor at New England College. Both I had him for my master's and my doctoral program, and I love his work. But it's really about transforming school culture. And the only way that we do that, that's in climate, the only way that we do that is school climate happens when the grownups are not around. And so we can't improve school culture without for students without doing it with students. And so this last meeting, we had our first student attend, and I'm hoping to, if there are any other students out there that are listening, we would love for you to come to a meeting. It's only one time per month, and your voice is very, very important to this process. So I really wanted to just say that.
All right, thank you both. Andy, facilities.
Yeah, we had a very interesting facilities meeting tonight. Just recapping the process, the critical needs of the district have been identified. The firm, Harriman, is assigning costs to those needs. But the theme for the meeting tonight was the high-level options to consider with 3 of our elementary schools. That's Williams Cone, Harpswell Community School, and Bodenham Community School. There are oldest buildings, or portions of them are significantly aged and at the end of the useful life. So those were the big discussions of what options to consider. So they presented to the committee a variety of options that will be discussed at Monday's forum. So yes, we hope that we get some community participation on the 10th at 6 o'clock in this room or by Zoom. But yeah, we're talking about renovating those spaces. We're talking about consolidating those spaces so all of these options are on the table right now. And some of those options considered moving Williams Cone to Woodside. Some of those options consider moving Bodenham Community School to the Bowdoin School and expanding, Bowdoin, and Harpswell, same thing. So they have a series of options that they want to get in front of the community to get, some feedback. There's also going to be an online survey that goes out, so folks can weigh in if they missed the meeting, and look at some of that data, and also decide, for many of us, those are very emotional decisions, what to do with our community schools. Unfortunately, 3 of them are all at the end of their useful life at the same time, and we need to do something about them. So it's going to be helpful to go through that with the community, so we hopefully get good community support, knowing that, it'll probably be light on attendance. I think Heidi is also sending out another, piece of media, so it can be widely distributed. I think we've already done Parent Square, for the forums. So spread the word. We hope to get participation. So that's the big message.
There's also a Zoom, there will also be a Zoom link which can join in that way as well.
Yes, don't forget Zoom if you can't make it physically. So there's an option for that.
Jim?
Just how right you are, the community schools, that each town having its own physical space and merging that with the realities of the building's condition, finance, the complexity, the algorithm that will go into making the decision, how important participation will be. And Heidi, I had a question. What percent, or do you have a number of how many families are connected through Parent Square?
I do, the majority. I can't give you an
Yeah.
actual number. I could look it up, but it will take me a few minutes to actually get that number.
Maybe that would be an interesting inter-school competition to see who would have the highest percentage.
Yeah.
Because it's the access to that information, to those
Yeah.
invitations.
Most everybody does because it's the way we communicate about all of our details.
Sure,
Yeah.
understood.
Yeah.
But how do we get everybody?
Yeah.
Always the goal. Inclusion.
That's true.
As well as all the folks who don't have students, right? So we want the full community to
There we go.
participate, so,
Above and beyond, yeah.
yeah, that's it.
And I was just gonna, for the point of clarity, like the options, the questions that Andy described are obviously not, facilities committee recommendations to the board. It's what this report is trying to get public feedback on various options on how to deal with our aging schools. This is a data collection. It's not a decision-making process at this point in time. Any decisions would follow.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I probably wasn't as careful as I could have been with that, but no decisions have been made for sure. The next step in the process would be assigning costs to options, so the community also has an understanding of that. So, we can all make an informed decision and how to move forward.
But the important thing is to get the information out there because that's vital for our decision-making process. And so that's what we're looking for.
Great. Next up, we will move on to CIA. So Jim?
The curriculum, the CIA committee had two agenda items today. We had shared with us some changes to the Mount Ararat Middle School honor roll. Really a simplification that the faculty has been engaged in, and how really the committee, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, was impressed by the level of thought that goes into it, reacting to parental concerns about and anxiety about the honor roll. We all want our kids at the top. We want that recognition. And how do you, and Megan, I think, put it well, how do you have the honor roll truly recognize significant, both in this case, what they've focused on are effort and academic achievement at the same time? And a interesting simplification with recognition for effort, recognition for achievement. If the two are both met, recognition on an honor roll. And if the academic achievement goes to a higher level, coupled with effort as well, not just the kid that everything comes easy to, then a higher level of recognition. So we enjoyed it, and it really was a culmination. Megan's done a great job of keeping the committee informed as this process has gone along. The second piece that we had shared with us was Dr. Hoffman sharing the thinking. And again, one of the adjustments to the agenda, Ryan, that you mentioned at the start was to not move forward with an approval or board acceptance of the suggestion of the exploratory programs for the high school. The design that's being considered is at this time, the thinking, and everything's flexible at this time, but the idea of integrating into the high school mini or exploratory courses that would last 2 weeks. The 2 weeks that are being considered at this point in their conversations are the last 2 weeks of school, during which the seniors are all working on their Eagle projects, their legacy projects. So the key, everybody's aware it's a very different school at that time, and how to make the best of that time. The committee in questions to Dr. Hoffman, how do you assure that the requirements, the academic expectations of those courses for 9th, 10th, and 11th graders are still going to be met if those last final 2 weeks of the academic year are used by exploratory programs? How do you make the most of it? There were questions, are the final 2 weeks of the year the best, if you're going to move ahead with these exploratory programs, is that the best time to do it? So many questions, but the idea of, and again, one thing that was really interesting, having the strategic plan in place, to be able to use it as a reflective surface to consider an idea. How does it help in moving towards achievement of the strategic plan, or does it not? But it gave us, not just, in my opinion, that sounds great. We were able to reflect back. So I think that was one part of the conversation that I really enjoyed. And again, this was more of a conversation because Chris was going to take the feedback from the committee back to the faculty and students for ongoing conversation. One of the interesting components in these 2-week courses, might there be a possibility, and certainly there would be, for students to take on a teaching role if they have a passion and interest, and it's with an understanding, this is the depth of it, not just in, this is something I really like, but how do you design a course? How do you teach? I think anybody who's done that can make you a better learner as well, if you consider how you'd go about teaching something. So a good conversation. In both cases, no need for full board action. But, and I will also add the comments about community participation. The CIA committee, like so many committees, we don't get a lot of people to come, but we had 4 community members attend and were able to share comments with the committee. So those voices are heard. So reminding everyone that those committees are certainly places that we'd love to hear and have community participation. Thanks. Yes.
Is it on? Oh, there we go. So you said students sort of in a teaching role. Do you see that as a possibility for seniors to use as their Eagle Legacy project? Because I know a lot of students in my class have been talking about, and in the past class, went to other schools to help educate on something that they have a specialty in, like music composition or individual education plans, kind of working with other teachers as sort of like a mentoring role. So, I mean, do you see that as something where students within the Mount Ararat school could take that role on as part of that project during that 2-week period?
During this, the project that was discussed, shared by Dr. Hoffman today, that is not a specific component of it. It was more the idea if, for instance, if there was a student who did a lot of fly tying, was a fly fisherman or fisherwoman who might want to teach the craft. What you're describing as working alongside, I would hope that that would not fit directly into what was shared today, but the power of collaboration is always a good thing, I believe.
Yeah, and I think Dr. Hoffman would be open to having that discussion because that's a good idea.
Any questions or committee members? Additional? Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. Moving on, we have no old business this evening, so we will move right to new business. First up, we're consider action to adopt the Finance Committee's proposed goal for the fiscal year 2027 budget process.
So moved.
And with that, maybe I'll hand it to you, Hudson, if you'd like to say anything as chair.
I will say only that hopefully it's self-explanatory. We had a good conversation about how the goal has evolved over the last couple of years. This is something we've only been doing for three years, I think now. And we felt that it was a good evolution and sort of reflects the work that the previous finance committees have done to help open the process up earlier already. So those are my comments.
Any additional thoughts? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that was unanimous. Thank you. And thanks to the committee for that work to get that put together and the work that's ahead of you all. It's going to be a busy finance season coming soon. All right, second up, we're consider a second reading and adoption of proposed new policy DKC, which is expense authorization and reimbursement.
So moved.
Second.
All right, with that, I'm going to see if you have anything you'd like to add here, Hudson.
Easy description. We've made no changes since first read.
Any questions or comments since first read? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And that was unanimous. Thank you. Thanks to the committee. 13.3, to consider the board review of proposed new procedure DKC-R, which is expense reimbursement procedure for travel.
So moved.
Second.
With, yeah.
So yeah, this is the first time you're seeing this, first and only time with luck. The committee did not make any major changes based on the MSMA sample. We did look at the under items 2 and 3. We looked at the dollar values, which weren't totally spelled out in the sample. We looked at the federal reimbursement rates for meals. We looked at some comp costs for lodging and thought this was reasonable based on current rates for meals and lodging when you're abroad. So that's that.
Excellent. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? None. So that was unanimous as well. Thank you. 13.4, as we heard earlier, was tabled. So that brings us to 14, which is calendar and announcements.
Sounds like we got a couple forums we want some publics to show up at, right?
We sure do, yes. And if you aren't sure when those are, they begin next Monday at 6 p.m. here. And if you're ever curious, please check out the Link75 website, which does list all the events that are upcoming. Any additions or comments on this? All right. Next up, we will go to executive session.
Pursuant to 1 MRSA Section 4056A, I move we enter executive session for the purpose of the superintendent's presentation and discussion of preliminary annual goals and objectives pursuant to board policies CBI and CBI-R.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? All right, we are in executive session. We will not be taking any action after this. So while you are welcome to stay and come back when we're live, but there will not be anything happening except adjournment. So thank you all and have a good evening.